right now. The sun has moved, but I'm loving, you can see this texture coming through, and I'm loving how it's looking so far. Here's my palette right now. I think that I'm gonna take a break for the day and maybe come back tomorrow. It's just super hot and I'm kind of dying here. So I'm gonna get some water, and I think we'll call this good for today. I'm gonna let this part dry, and we'll come back and we'll continue working on it tomorrow. All right, we're here for day 2, and it's kind of amazing what a difference one day makes. Get a load of this. Look at how wilted these flowers all are. I think it's primarily the heat, but also these Japanese beetles that totally decimate and destroy these roses. So that's a major bummer. Pretty soon they'll all look like this. I knew my time was limited, but I didn't really know that it was going to be this much of a difference after just one day. So I think it's a combination of the heat and probably the beetles. Well, that was just a little bit disappointing, but I'm not giving up. I'm going to basically learn from this, and we're going to take it back to the studio, and I'll use sort of photo references that I gathered yesterday to complete the painting. I think that I have enough color notes to still give me some accurate colors, and this is going to be a learning experience and an experiment. So we'll see what we can do back in the studio and the AC. You know, so in the end, I had a couple conflicting visions, because one of the unspoken visions that I have for all my artwork is accurate tonal values. And I think, like, on this painting, just some of the forms didn't get rendered very well, and it ended up being kind of flat. I feel like on camera, it does show up sort of okay from a distance. It's really flat up close, and I lost some of the forms. This rose right here is pretty good, and I do like that glow that I got, but just in terms of like trying to think about what are the main goals of doing a painting, what am I trying to represent exactly, I think a little bit of that got lost through this whole process. And you know, I tend to think that when you're doing plein air painting, it's kind of hard to overwork a painting because you really have a limited amount of time. And little did I know, with the heat and the bugs, that I really just had that one shot at those. So I'm really kind of learning how to go from plein air to photo reference. A lot of times I feel like I have more experience doing one or the other, but you know, we're continuing to work on a plein air piece back in the studio. This was one of the first times trying to do that, and I just think that I got a little bit in over my head. So like, how do you know when is the right time to stop? I mean, looking back at the footage, to me there is kind of a point in the middle of this where I think the painting was a lot better than how it is right now. And so I would actually recommend to all of you, if this is something you struggle with, if you're painting a lot and then you find yourself in the middle, you know, if you're painting a lot and you find yourself getting to a point where you realize like it's overworked and you're not able to identify that moment where it became overworked, honestly, just setting up your phone camera or any camera you can get your hands on and do a time lapse, and then watch that back and see if you can find and designate a spot where you go, there's the moment where it would have been better to stop. And I think also it helps to like identify for yourself, what does that even mean? What does that even look like? You know, what are the goals? You know, if you look at it and you say, okay, this is where it looked better and then I overworked it, kind of take a still shot of that moment in time, analyze for yourself, what is it about that's clicking for you? Because I really also, I think like, you know, there's many rubrics by which this is a good painting, right? And you know, one of the things that I was trying to do was to get texture, and there really is a lot of texture on this guy. I actually augmented the texture quite a bit by utilizing cold wax for the first time. And so there were just so many things that I experimented with, in part because I wanted to see what would happen, in part because of necessity, with the flowers dying, basically. I had to kind of scramble, and I decided to experiment with cold wax to get even more texture and even more impasto. And I think that's a lesson too. Like, I tend to do this all the time, but sometimes I go overboard with my experiments. And what I mean by that is like experimenting with maybe like a new brush and a new surface and some new art materials and maybe a new color of paint and then like a new subject matter I've never painted before. And that's fine. And a lot of times I get really excited and that's fun. But I think like it would be easier to learn through that experience if I just experimented with one variable at a time, or maybe two. I've never painted on a surface this heavily textured before. And so that could have been alone by itself kind of the interesting variable to work with and to think about. But instead I added new materials and new colors and different brushes and going in and out of the studio. And so I think all of those things, I set myself up for not the most successful painting that I could have had. There's a lot of aspects to this that I learned from, and every painting or drawing that you do, every piece of artwork really has lessons in it to teach you for the next time. And you want to sit down and think about those lessons and see what you have to learn from it. You're going to become a better artist through that, and the next thing that you do is going to be better because of it. So it's really not a failure unless you fail to learn from the mistakes that you made. And I think that if you do learn from the mistakes you made, then it's really not a failure at all. It's a learning opportunity, and through that learning, you're getting stronger and better and smarter. And this is how you become a better artist. So in a way, I'm glad that all of this happened, because I feel like I have a lot to learn from it, even though the painting didn't turn out exactly how I wished. You have a voice that matters. Go be creative. I'll see you next time.